Good afternoon. Thank you so much. Wow, I think we already had an exciting start. David, you gave us the first great assist. I think we have a mixed group of people here. So I think before we jump onto all those very nice buzzwords, that we're all excited about, I take the other assist from Anders and just say, well, I think we all agree that we need to create better problems. So just to start around here, what are the problems currently if you watch at the sports industry? So starting with you, Mota.
I think one of the main challenges that is facing the sports industry right now is how you can use technology as an enabler rather than just a solution to everything, and how does it tie into your business objective, or how does it, like Anders mentioned, how does it help the sport grow? And that's one key challenge that they have. And then the second challenge is obviously the key point is commercialization, and how can you generate new revenue streams, and how can you leverage technology to generate as well new revenue streams.
Thomas, how do you see the situation of the sports industry at the moment?
Well, I guess the main challenge that I see is that how people in general discover the things that they like, that they become a fan of, has changed, and also how people connect with people, with brands, experiences they like. And of course, the key driver for this is digitization. And sports really needs to adapt how it connects with fans, how it reaches fans in the first place, and how then, like you said, how they can build business models that work in this new digital economy.
Damian.
Mainly the attention span. I think the fact that we're competing against the Netflix of the world and against fierce competition elsewhere, I mean, it's just everywhere. You need to somehow bring the fans closer, and you need to use technology for that, because otherwise it will be very expensive to do so.
Obviously, many great problems. We probably won't be able to solve them all today. Let's try to get a bit into that, into the right direction. So, Mota, with Next Sports, you have a rather, as an agency, you have a rather holistic approach how to tackle the industry and solve the digital problems. Please explain, like, if you have just a quick look back into the last 2 to 5 years, let's say, how has technology solved some of the problems or made some of the problems better?
Or more complicated as well. One of the things that, if you look back 5 years ago, the main focus was always around how can we, like Damian mentioned, which is how can we capture attention with such a huge markets and with such different sports, and how can we use this technology to be able to capture audiences, to be able to even bring core audiences back to the sport. So the evolution that we've seen in the past 5 years was a lot of focus on what are the platform, where should I be, and then now is how can I actually know my audiences better. So what is my data strategy? What is the type of data that I can collect? They mentioned that they started selling the tickets a year ago. That is great, but that's also a direct to consumer strategy that you have direct access on who's sitting in the audience and who is actually seeing that. So the evolution is becoming sort of more, how can I take back a little bit of control of my technology and my business model in order to reach my core audience.
Mm-hmm. Thomas, I think we had this buzzword today already. So when it comes to Web3, I think it has been one of the loudest topics, at least, in the last couple of years. Yeah. Lots of noise in connection with NFTs, etc. So you've done some great work in the last years, had a lot of experiences with different clients from the industry. Could you maybe, first of all, before we dive into this, give us a quick definition of what you consider as Web3?
Well, I will give you the broad definition. I don't think there is a generally agreed upon, but the broad definition is where blockchain-based technology with different approaches to re-decentralize the digital playing field come together. There we are in Web3, because of course we had, much to your point, with the rise of the big platforms, also big digital monopolies or oligopolies forming, and we see a trend, and that is partly a technological trend, but partly also a philosophical trend or even a business structure trend, and that is to me Web3, and that goes to the point of what I like to call platform ownership, for instance, right? Having more power about data, having it in your own space, and that is maybe not the blockchain purist definition of it, but it is mine.
Nice. So Damian, I guess everybody knows Infront. Maybe not everybody knows Infront Labs. Maybe with the example of Web3, could you explain us a little bit how you approach those kind of trends? So how do you make sure that those kind of trends are really valuable for the industry or for users?
So we tend to take the trend and break it down into the problems and understand what are the problems of our partners, or internally, what are the problems, be it production or sponsorship, or you just name it. Once we understand the problem, we then go out and try to find the relevant solution. Now, we try to avoid naming those with the specific trends, but the bottom line is, of course, if you take Web3 or AI or the creator economy, all of those are part of what is out there. And I think this is also part of the solution. So if you take the AI as an example, I think EHF were one of the pioneers also in that regard, already in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, with the use of WSC for the automated highlights, or the use of different things like, games, etc. So I really think that being able to identify those needs, then bringing the solutions is definitely the key. Now, one word about Web3, and we spoke about it also, the four of us. I think it is here to stay.
Yeah.
We're not going to it will not vanish. The big brands are here, they're using it, be it Adidas, be it Nike. It will go through a shift. It will, like in every trend, you'll find the right way to work with the specific, be it sport or media, but it's here to stay. It will shift a bit. The same, by the way, as with AI. At first, AI was this weird thing. How can you do it without a human being? And now we see that with some slight adjustment, it is possible to use it properly, to personalize the experience for the users, and then also coming back to the previous lecture, build the trust, build the connection with the fans, because at the end, this is what the fans are expecting. We can spend a lot of time in creating amazing technologies that no one will ever use. But if we understand what the fans, because this is the core of everything we do, if we understand what the fans need, then we can do more. Mm-hmm. One key thing is, of course, technology, and behind the technology is the human capital, as the previous presentation just shared with us. But I think it's the team behind each and every organization, be it startups, be it any kind of sport organization.
Mm-hmm. Thomas, back to your approach and what you're doing with your company Liquidity. So you guys say you want to tokenize professional sports. Could you explain this a bit more? And could you tell us a bit what kind of cases with sports rights holders do you have?
Sure. So first on this claim, I guess we need to update it at some point. It's pretty much the oldest claim, and it's only in a few places. But so what we do, we build a software as a service solution which is called Unify, and I essentially describe it as a content and community management system that is also powered by different Web3 mechanisms to, for instance, create new business models on the direct-to-consumer side or on the business-to-business side with the sponsorship integrations and all this. But Web3 tokenization is only one element in this, and I think that is also very important because we need to build solutions for our clients, which are rights holders like Borussia Dortmund, or we have a German First League basketball team, Basketball Löwen Brunswick. We also have different athletes who use it to connect with their community and to build their own platforms, because as we talked about, platform ownership is super important. Tokenizing sports goes back to one of the features we essentially have, where you can have your own token, which is like an in-game currency that people can use to interact with different things, unlock premium contents, and so on. But today, I would definitely change this claim. But in startups, you have so many things to do, so some stuff sometimes gets lost.
Yeah. So we know Thomas and his colleagues have some club examples. So Mota, I know you're talking or you're working a lot with associations, federations. Yep. How do you approach the work together with them if they just say, well, I've heard about those trends. How important can it be for me? What's the potential for me? Do I have to do something with it?
Yeah. So we work a lot with international governing bodies, so into international federations such as the International Volleyball Federation. We worked with the International Wrestling Federation as well, and some other associations. And the way they approach technology is very, very similar to any other sporting organization. They have certain challenges in reaching audiences, capturing audiences, understanding their audiences, because they also organize great events like this one, and they want to be able to reach those fans. And the way we notice these trends is that they're always driven by content communities or data-driven strategies. So one of the things that we're noticing now in international federations world or in the associations world is I have all these different platforms scattered everywhere. So how can I collect all this data, and how can I centralize all this data? But that was the challenge 5 years ago. Now the challenge is that I have so much data, I don't know what to do with it. And that's one of the situations that we're facing right now, and one of the questions that we're trying to answer with some of our associations. You will hear a lot about CDPs and CRMs and personalization, but at the end of the day is what is the most relevant data piece that you have that will get you closer to your audience. And that's what we're trying to do with Next, but also some of the challenges that the international federations are facing.
But taking this data challenge, I mean, that's of course a topic that probably no rights holder, no club really wants to hear, yeah? Because we want to see, like, we want to build a solution for our fans, something that is attractive, something that gets eyeballs. Don't tell me about the back end, yeah? don't tell me about the boring stuff. So how do you convince people, and do you make sure that you have the right foundations for whatever solution comes up?
Absolutely. So there's different ways to approach it. Obviously, in the organizations world, you have a very busy calendar. You have match days, you have all of that. So you don't necessarily have an off season, even though athletes can have sometimes certain off season, but the actual organization starts working for the next season the year after. So there's no time for you to sit down and figure out the foundation. So the way we approach it is, in some regards, is looking at the different challenges that you have at each stage of your organization, whether it's revenue generation, reach, and defining the solution for that. So, for instance, we spoke about AI a little bit. One of the things that we're doing right now as a cloud partner to Microsoft is we actually build solutions to almost make data more accessible and make the data literacy a little bit more accessible for C-level executives and top-level executives and managers. Because at the end of the day, I can show a beautiful dashboard, but if I don't understand those KPIs, then no. So I can go just simply on a chatbot or on ChatGPT now, ask the question, how many tickets did I sell today? And will give you the answer. So supporting that data literacy is our approach, and understanding the problems that they have at which stage is very important.
And I think, if I may, but if you want to have also the look from a fan point of view, the data will allow you to create a better experience. And again, let's go back to the competition, to Netflix. When you watch something on Netflix, then everything is around you. You get recommendations, you get, let's watch more. Take this, shift it to sport. So you follow PSG, great. Let's see now everything around it. And then a company such as Liquidity exactly falls there, because then you can interact with a fan better. You give him the opportunity also to own something, so then he's committed to that, right? So this is another example of how data allows you to just create better experiences.
And maybe two last questions on the whole Web3 issue. I think you mentioned it in a half sentence. So whatever you do with Web3 or Web3 driven, do you think this is more about getting more independent from classic revenue streams, or is it basically to enhance those that are already existing, like ticketing, merchandising, sponsorships?
I think Web3 is around utility. So if you're able to bring this into the existing ecosystem and then build on top of it, you'll succeed. Otherwise, if this will be siloed as a different revenue stream or as a different goal, it will be very hard to really make this work. I think you see it with the big sport organizations, be it the NFL, we saw what happened. They were under the assumption that a lot of money will come in, and they were disappointed. And I think if you take, let's say, the tier 2, 3, 4, for them, it's even impossible to really make substantial revenues from Web3. So you really need to integrate this in the ecosystem, in your ecosystem, and leverage the technology for that.
Yeah, because I believe people in Web3 in general, and at the intersection of sports and Web3, where I think the big hype topic obviously was NFTs, they took a wrong perspective at it, because they didn't do what you said. They didn't think about what do fans want, but they saw, oh, there are people spending hundreds, thousands, and sometimes even millions of dollars on digital assets, so let's make some NFTs with our players or whatever we have the rights on. And that obviously doesn't work, because it doesn't create anything fans really want. It works in an overheated market where some people spend a lot of money on NFTs, but it's not a solution for any kind of problem. And it also didn't reach most fans, right? Maybe on NBA Top Shot, because they marketed it nice, some NBA fans who were not into crypto went there, tried it, bought a bit, thought maybe they will get rich. They didn't. Now they are disappointed and it's gone. And that is pretty much the story of this field. I think we can be pretty proud, because when we started building our product, it took a very different stance and had a different opinion on this subject, and thought it just needs to be it's a great tool that you can use to build better experiences for fans, to do scenarios like one thing that Basketball Löwen Braunschweig, they are doing every day. If you go to the stadium, you can check in by scanning a QR code and you receive a free NFT. They don't even call it NFT. Great. They call it a sticker. It's a digital collectible you get, and some of these can contain free merch like a jersey or whatnot. And that is, I think, a pretty cool, almost loyalty use case where you reward attendance to live games. It uses the technology, but it's not about NFTs, not about crypto and all of this. And I guess whatever buzzword we talk about, like you said, we need to, the fan is what is important, except if it's these backend problems, then it's maybe about efficiency and saving money, also super relevant. But once it is user or fan-facing, we need to start there. And in the Web3 NFT space, that mostly didn't happen, and people wanted to get rich quick.
And that applies not only to Web3 and NFTs and tokenizations and AI, it actually applies to any type of technology. You need to think about it on how you implement it at each step or each experience to enhance either the fan experience, enhance even the employee experience, like in the back end on how they can be more efficient or make their lives easier. So that's how I think the way it should be taken is not as a silo, but as something integrated within your overall ecosystem operations and experiences as well.
Yeah, and if that all were not enough, now, as I think we already said, everybody's talking about AI, as if it was never there. Yeah, it just came out somewhere a couple of months ago. So, Damian, what do we make out of this now?
For me, coming back again to better experiences and making sure that we can do more with less, but do more in terms of variety, in just spending less money, but also being able then to create the original stories properly and with more focus. Because if the AI allows you to create more content, it's great, but you need also to tell the story. You need to make sure that you bring this across and not just create it for the sake of it, right? As I think Motasem said, you can have plenty of data. It doesn't help if you don't know what to do with it. Same with content. You can create endless amount of content, but if you don't tailor it and then share it properly, it will not really have the effect.
So Damian, I know that you guys are, I think, monitoring, screening thousands of startups across the years. So when it comes to AI specifically, what kind of startups are interesting for you? Is it more about creating additional revenues, or is it more about saving costs?
It really depends with what our partner or what we're looking for. Let's say production. We know that 20% of a client, 20% of the games are not being covered because of the cost of the production. But if we know now that with the AI, not only that we will be able to produce it automatically, but also get the data out of it, and then create the content also on social, that is for me a win-win. And therefore, we spend time on, let's say, cost-efficient plus reach plus monetization. On the other hand, let's take the piracy example. 5 years ago, you had to do everything manually. So be it like searching, using keywords, using hashtags to really find illegal copies. Now, with the help of AI, you can do much more automatically, right? And then take it down. So you have different examples how to use AI, but it really depends on what you're looking for.
So looking at the time, we have to jump a little bit. But let's have a quick anecdote, because I think in 2007, I started to study media economics, and my computer science professor back then said, well, Philipp, you have to get a Twitter account, you have to get a Last.fm account, and more important, you have to get a Second Life account. So, and maybe some of you remember this. So Second Life was supposed to be, let's say, an early version of the Metaverse, but I'd say a couple of months or a couple of years later, to be fair, it was basically gone. It was not relevant anymore. So, Thomas, what do you think? Why is the Metaverse or the whole trend staying this time?
I mean, we could go back to definitions and even talk about what is the metaverse, and do we not already live in it, because we all have these little devices in our pockets, and I think Elon Musk once called it, we are all already cyborgs, or androids, no, it was cyborgs. So maybe we already live in the metaverse, and it's here to stay if we focus on this idea of 3D worlds where people spend a lot of time in. I don't know how much time the average person, say 20 years from now, is going to spend in those, but the technology is getting better and the use cases around gaming are really cool right now. So I guess these are all indicators that the things that are currently being built can create something useful for users in the future, but it's also not as straightforward, right? Is it VR going to be the next big thing, and are people going to live only in VR? I doubt it personally. I think like these mixed reality approaches we are currently seeing are very, very interesting, but that is definitely like a earlier trend where we are going to see how it develops. But if you take a broader definition once again, then I guess that a digital layer is around everything we are doing in our daily lives already, and the way how we interact with digital reality or digital data and experiences has been changing all the time. You remember desktop computers and very ugly monitors, and now we have mobile phones, we have smartwatches maybe, and so yeah, the screens are going to adapt over time and have been.
Mota, so I mean, Thomas is right. It always depends a bit on how you define the scope exactly. But do you see with your clients or with other examples in the industry, do you already see some cases that are at least interesting enough when it comes to sports and metaverse?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's quite a few brands like Adidas and Nike that are using the metaverse almost as a testing ground of new experiences, and try to mix and bring the virtual world with the physical world, because that's where it's important to make it fit with the whole experience and not have it as completely siloed. On another note, I'm glad that your professor didn't say MySpace as well, so that's something else.
So when we have a look at all those trends, and I mean, we're all excited about technology. I think we're all more than happy to help different clubs or leagues or federations to support them with digital services. But what do you think, what are the future, or basically as-is capabilities that organizations should set up now? What should they set up internally? Damian.
I think when it comes to sport, the most important is to get the data, sports data, user data, and then a better understanding of what the fans want. If you have let's say the basic when it comes to data, you can do then everything. If you own the data, you can do then whatever you want. Be it, from content creation to monetization to production, there's really everything at the end comes down to data.
But based on the...
No, please.
No, just basically asking more precisely. So this is of course an important competence, but are we going to see, let's say, in-house roles when it comes to, I don't know, data engineers, data scientists, that in 5 years from now will work basically for every club that we have around here?
I think we see it already, that more and more clubs are becoming small media companies. It started with head of digital, and then you see, let's take FC Köln. They have a B2C now, head of B2C, that is responsible for the connection with the clients, and he's doing more towards that. So I think that is definitely the direction, and you need then to bring everything together, but you also need to understand what is really needed.
So what I wanted to say in terms of capabilities, going back to my days in consulting, I think it's really a good question, and I firmly believe that building the organizational structures like a product company, especially for everything that comes down to digitization of the fan experience, is super important, and it's not the structure that I see in most clubs, but really building and thinking like an organization. I need to build digital products to reach my fans, to create value for my fans, and then to be able to monetize these and create these new revenue streams, whether on B2C or on the B2B side. Even there, brands become more and more demanding. They want new solutions. And so luckily I don't think, but that might be biased because we create a SaaS solution. You don't necessarily need to build deep tech capabilities and a huge development team, because there will be solution providers, but the product, this you need to own, you need to build it. And building good products, if you look at how startups in the tech world usually work, they are customer-centric, so you need to be fan-centric. And that is not only a buzzword, it's really like an organizational structure where you look at, hey, what do my fans do? What do they like? You need to have like a mindset of trying out things, testing, but getting data, real-world feedback. Does it work? Does it not work? And iterate quickly. And that is definitely, there are proven, tried and tested structures if you look in the tech world, the software, the product world, but they haven't come to most sports organizations, and I firmly believe 10 years from now, all successful rights holders will have these teams and these structures in place.
I think agility is going to be a key factor here for the growth of the sports industry, but also how you adapt to these different changes. I mean, just in this panel here, we're discussing just 4 buzzwords, right? So, but there's so many other topics that we can discuss that you need to build a structure that allows you to move quickly to and jump on and test it, right? So if you have data engineers' capabilities in-house, then you can actually be playing around with some AI models right now to see how can I sell more tickets, or how can I understand the seating capabilities within the arena, and what is sort of maybe my churn rate with my OTT. So those are these capabilities inside, but it's more sort of as well the mindset of being agile to test, learn, and deploy as well.
And maybe don't be afraid to fail. I think Andres also mentioned it. When you try new things, not everything will work out. Yeah. It's part of it.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a great final statement. Thank you very much, guys. Thank all of you. Hope this was exciting. It was exciting for me. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the afternoon, rest of the weekend.
Thank you.